Hey, what's up guys? So Ms. Bridwell and I are here today to talk to you about how to solve proportions. So this right here is a 7th grade skill that you're expected to learn. It's another way for you to solve these type of ratio problems we've been working on, such like with the tape diagrams and ratio tables and things. This is I think one of the easiest ways to solve these problems, and it's probably the way that you all will pick up on and do the most often. So we're going to run through a few problems with you, try to keep this video as short as possible so that you can get to work. But Ms. Bridwell's going to take it over and explain the first couple of problems to you.
Alright guys, so we've already done most of this with you, but we just want to review real quick. Your only assignment today is going to be to watch this video. There's no written work, you just have to watch it and make sure you understand. Tomorrow you'll be doing this stuff by yourself, so you need to make sure you can do it. So the first part on this, it just says, and this handout, by the way, is on Canvas. It's not in your folder, but we did upload a copy for you, so that's what we're working from. So it says, do the ratios form a proportion? All you have to do is write yes or no. Well, we've talked about proportion. They're just asking you, are they equivalent? So the easiest way is just to cross multiply. So 7 times 7 we know is 49, and 9 times 5 we know is 45. 45 and 49 do not match, so the simplest answer is no, they do not form a proportion.
So guys, when we say proportion, I like to say it's a fancy word for are these ratios equivalent? And we've talked about equivalent ratios, equivalent fractions a lot. So it's just a fancy word for are these two things equivalent? Okay?
Alright, so number 2, same thing, it's just another example. So when you do 4 times 27 and a half, you end up with 110.
Man, you do that in your head so quickly?
No, Mr. Winstead, I have already worked these problems. 11 times 10, of course, is 110. So are those equivalent? Yes, they are.
So that means 4 and 11ths and 10 and 27.5 are proportional. So that's a word that we're going to start using a lot. Are they proportional?
Okay, so that's how you would do the top section. And again, I would encourage you to go ahead and look through these problems. We can even upload the answer key for you so that you can kind of look through them and make sure, could you work them on your own if you had to, okay? So the next section, I'm going to work number 7. And it says solve each proportion by creating an equation. Okay, so this is where it gets to be a little bit different. This is new for you all. So they give you 5 over 15 is equivalent to 7 over n. Okay, that n is that variable that's unknown. We don't know what that variable could be. So the easiest way would have been to work these problems like we've done in class. If, let's say this was a 10, we would say, well, what do we do to get from 5 to 10? We multiplied by 2. Well, we do the same thing on the bottom to find your missing value. Well, that's not going to work in this situation. You can't, 5 times nothing is going to give you 7. So there's several different ways to do this. You can find your own pattern, but we're going to show you one particular way that is going to be most useful for you, especially this year and next year. So you cross multiply. All right, so we're going to start right here. When you cross multiply, you multiply. Okay, so I've got n. I have one little measly n. Well, I'm multiplying that by 5. So how many n's do I have now? Well, I have 5 n's. So we make it 5. That's an n.
And guys, remember we talked about, so if you forget, if we have a number beside of a letter with no real operation in between them, you should know that that means multiplication. That means 5 times n, which is what we did here. When we cross multiply, you take 5 times n, which would just be 5 times n because we can't do anything with it yet.
We don't know what n is.
Because we don't know what n is. So make sure you realize that it's not 5n, it's 5 times n.
So 5 times n gives us 5n. 15 times 7 gives us 105. Okay, so now at this point we've got an equation. 5 times something is going to be 105. The easiest way to figure out what that something is do that inverse operation. Well, this is multiplication. So what's the opposite of multiplication? We divide. So we're going to take and we're going to divide both sides of this equation by whatever number is attached to that variable. Okay, and you'll get better at this.
So
over time.
One of the things we're going to work on this year, which we haven't yet, is how to solve equations. So this right here may look completely foreign to you because we've not done it yet, but we'll get there eventually. Just keep in mind right now, all you have to remember is we're do the inverse operations. We're just dividing by the number that's with your variable. Okay.
So 5 divided by 5 we know is 1, so those basically cancel out, they go away. You're left with just 1 n, or a plain old variable, which is what you want. And we'll explain, like Mr. Winstead said, more into this later on down the road. And then 105 divided by 5 is 21. So you know your answer is 21.
So if that really confused you guys and you don't understand exactly what she did yet, think it back to elementary school when you did this. In elementary school, you had 5 times blank equals 105. So if this right here makes more sense to you right now, that's okay. We want you to get to this eventually. If you got it now, perfect. If you don't, just think to yourself, 5 times what would give me 105? And that's exactly what she did. And we know that 5 times 20 gets me to 100, hopefully, that we know that. So 5 more would be that 21. So you can do it either way right now, whichever way makes most sense. This right here is more elementary. This right here is getting a more higher level math.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move that whole section. 7, 8, and 9 are done the exact same way, okay? So we're going to move on down to the bottom section, which starts on number 10. Okay, now this is where it gets into what we call proportion word problems. So it says there are 90 books on 5 shelves. How many books are there on 14 shelves? Okay, so we need to set up what we know. We know that first rate is 90 books on 5 shelves.
Right there should be nothing new to you because we worked on that a lot last week.
Right. And we're trying to figure out, well, they said, well, how many are going to be on 14 shelves? Well, my shelves are on the bottom over here, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure my 14 shelves is on the bottom as well. I don't know how many books are on there, so we give a variable. Typically, we give it X, but you can give it any letter you want. Now, we solve this exactly the same way as we did the problem before. So, we just kind of ignore our labels at this point. We need to cross multiply. 5 times X, we should know is 5X's, is equal to, I know the middle of that board is not working really well. 90 times 14 is going to give me, wrong color. No,
Can't do that.
Can't be messing up my colors now. So 90 times 14 gives me 1,260. Okay? All right, look at that wave in the middle of my smartboard today.
It's amazing how you do that.
Don't really know what's happening there. So now we have that one-step equation again. So 5 times something gives me 1,260. Well, we don't know what that something is off the top of our head. So we do that inverse operation.
And this right here, guys, is where working in an equation by using inverse operations is much easier, because if you did it like the elementary way that I showed you a second ago, you're probably going to do a lot of guessing to try to get what times 5 would get me 1,260. So.
All right, so we're going to divide both sides by whatever number is attached to that variable. Well, 5 is attached to it, so we're going to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so it goes away. I'm left with just X, 1X. And then you simply do your math. 1,260 divided by 5
And you can do that using long division. You should know how to do that by now.
252 is my answer, and I got to figure out what am I talking about in this top row. I'm talking about books. So my answer is 252 books.
So what we're really finding here, guys, is if we need 5 shelves for 90 books, and we have 252 books, then we will need 14 shelves. So these are proportional to each other. So that means we have the same amount of books on the shelves as we did before. We just need more more shelves to hold more books. So that's really all we're trying to figure out. Like, okay, if I have 252 books, how many shelves do I need? Or vice versa, if I have 14 shelves, how many books can I fit on them? In this case, 252.
All right, we're going to skip down and we're going to do one more of these with you just as an example. And we're going to do number 13 because I want you to see that sometimes the unknown can be on the top. Sometimes it can be on the bottom. It can be anywhere, okay? But the process is still the same. So we're going to do number 13 together. It says a shop produces 39 wetsuits every 2 weeks. How long will it take the shop to produce 429 wetsuits? So the first rate they gave us is 39 wetsuits, and that takes them 2 weeks to produce. So now the company needs to figure out how long it's gonna take them to produce 429 wetsuits. And you can abbreviate your proportions if you want to. So in this situation, I don't know my weeks, so this is gonna become my X. Or my unknown. So you do the process the same exact way. 39 times X gives us 39 X's. Okay, we do the other side. 2 times 429. I don't know that off the top of my head. I should, but I don't today. 858. So, again, one-step equation here. 39 times something gives me 858. I don't know. I don't want to guess that many times. So, we do the inverse operation. We divide both sides by that 39. 39 and 39 cancel out. So I'm left with just one X. Your math over here, 858 divided by 39 gives me 22. And what are we talking about here? 22 weeks. Now, a good rule of thumb is you should, as you're filling out these proportions, did I do something wrong?
No, I'm just trying to figure out why you need 39 wetsuits for 2 weeks. And I don't know.
I don't know.
it's
Maybe
just
it's
a very odd label.
Company that's producing it, I don't know.
Maybe, I can see that, I guess.
But you should be able to process through this and think, okay, well, if 39 take me 2 weeks, that number is substantially larger. So if you get some crazy answer like 5 weeks, it should make sense. Okay, wait a minute, that's not gonna be enough. You should be able to kind of estimate your way through this, okay? Now, we don't expect you to be perfect at this, but, because this is an ongoing skill for this year. This cross multiplying and solving is gonna help you so much this year and into algebra.
Yeah.
So we'll upload the answer key so you can see some more examples and kind of work through them. Tomorrow, you'll have to work through some of these by yourself, but that's all you have to do today is work through the ones that we did.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little incentive. I just thought about this, okay?
Uh-oh.
If you made it through this entire video and you will email us this key phrase, we will give you extra points on an assignment.
Say what?
Yeah, I know it's a long video. And so if you took the time and watched this entire video and you will email, if you have Miss Bridwell, email Miss Bridwell. If you have me, email me. But if you email us this phrase, now let us know that you watched this entire video, we'll give you extra points. And that phrase is, Mr. Winstead is my favorite math teacher.
That is not
Yep.
even accurate.
That is the phrase of the day. So if
Whatever.
you made it through and you email us both that, or one of us that, whoever your teacher is, you will get extra points. Don't shake your head because this is real.
And if
This is
you
real.
email me and say Mr. Winstead is your favorite math teacher, you're gonna get credit, but you better put ... I'm just kidding.
All right, have a good day. We'll see you all tomorrow, and I hope that we get some emails about that phrase so that you can get some extra points. See you tomorrow.